Hey guys, BJ and GameDay back. Just next round of team previews. Going to run through the Storm and the West Tigers. Just another quick shout out for the BJ and GameDay League. I think there's a couple of spots left. Might even be full by now. But the code 620781. 20-man comp, $20 payout basically. Brett and I will donate to the Mental League Foundation. Anyone who can beat Brett and I both overall in the league. Look, for the Storm, let's go to their guns. Now, obviously, Cam Smith. Little bit of a hard one this year. Last season was a little bit of a dip in form. The Melbourne Storm lost Cooper Cronk. Damien Cook emerged as the premier hooker, I guess, in Supercoach and in the game. Look, it's hard to keep down a champion. Cameron Smith signed on for another season, 384 games currently, so he definitely wants to hit that 400. He'll become the first player in history to do so, and at some stage early in the season, he's going to pass Hazem El Masri as the leading point scorer of all time. I think he's probably got about 30 or 40 points to go, so that'll definitely happen this season. Look, my take on Cameron Smith is I'm going to stay away from him. I think with the form that Damien Cook's in, I think Josh Hodgson is definitely emerging as the next best hooker in the game with regards to attack. Purely that he's just got to stay healthy. But look, Cam Smith, a little bit of talk around him playing halfback for half the game, but there was that last year as well. He's been doing that all his career, really. He doesn't mind getting out of dummy half and playing first receiver. But the big difference is he just doesn't have Cooper Cronk to deliver to. But as much as he might have slowed down a pace or two with the body, he's still just as quick between the ears. So, look, risk him. Don't go him at your own peril. If you don't want to go with Cook, he's always a good option because you know what you're going to get from him. I just didn't like last season. There were a few sort of 30 and 40 games. He's never really done those before. You know, that was sort of out of the ordinary. And he didn't really ton up. I think he was one game there where he scored about 120. But I think it was only one ton for the year. So, I just think, I'm hoping, look, again, being a Queenslander, he's not my most favourite player, but I'm hoping he hasn't played one season too long. Obviously, he wants to get that record, but I think he might be a victim of that this year, so we'll wait and see. Look, the other guns at the Melbourne Storm, they don't really have to. I mean, look, Felice Kafusi, he's priced in that high 500Ks, but he's never really been considered a gun or that gun status. Definitely really consistent. Base stats is brilliant, but he lost Cooper Cronk to run outside of last season. He went okay, but he was also running outside Billy Slater a lot last season. Now Billy's gone. So I can't really see Felice Kafusi sort of stacking up this season. And with how deep we are in the second row forward position, just one that I'd stay away from. That's not to say I think he's going to make the Queensland side. I think he will be awesome in the Queensland side again, puts in plenty of effort, runs great lines. So once you get him in the Queensland team, maybe outside sort of Michael Morgan, all those better players, Kalen Ponga and stuff, it'll just sort of produce for him. Cam Munster tends to play a lot more left side, so whether he can actually get the ball or the right sort of combination on that right side remains to be seen. Speaking of Cam Munster, look, I prefer him at fullback. Bellyache has had a couple of seasons now where they've sort of transitioned him into that 5'8" role. Again, I still prefer him at fullback, but look, at the end of the day, he's their best player. He's their most exciting player, but from a Supercoach point of view, at 5'8", he is just a little inconsistent for mine. If he starts to string some more of those big games together, then that's when you might think, hang on, all right, this guy's on here. But I just think with the Melbourne team the way it is at the moment, still a great team, still going to obviously push for that top 8 in that premiership. But I think they'll be missing a few things. Cronk gone, Billy Slater gone. A lot of that weight rests on Cam Munster's shoulders, especially with Cameron Smith sort of getting to the very, very back end of his career. Mid-rangers now, look, I think this is a massive, massive plus for the Melbourne Storm. And it comes with sad news for Scotty Drinkwater, obviously that torn pec, but I think it is huge that Jerome Hughes has got that fullback spot. I've been loving this guy for the last 2 or 3 seasons. I've been waiting I was really hoping that Billy wouldn't come back. Great to see a champion like Billy come back and play those last couple of seasons, but it really stopped Jerome Hughes getting in that number 1 spot and just sealing himself as that fullback for the Melbourne Storm. This gives him that opportunity. Look, he's got 10 or 12 weeks to absolutely produce form, and I think he will. I'm hoping what doesn't happen is that he takes that mentality and that he's just sort of got the spot by default. The fact that they'd sort of announced Drinkwater as the primary fullback would have been a little bit of a kick in the guts to him. But look, any way you get it, he's got the chance there to perform. I've seen brilliance from him that you get out of those Kalen Pongers and stuff. So really hoping that that he can fire. Look, Josh Adokar now, sort of awkwardly priced at 470k, was dead set the most inconsistent player with regards to price last season. Started, I think, around that sort of 400k, dropped to about 300. At one stage mid-season, after 3 or 4 tons out of 4 games, I think, he hit over 700k, and by the end of the season was back down to 400. So, a little bit of a tough one to follow, Joshy, but one thing you know is this guy's just got the speed, he's got the X factor to break open any game. The fact that he played for the Blues last year and was absolutely sensational, I think is just going to mean his career gets better and better. So, if he can continue that form and find a little bit of consistency outside on the wing, he's just going to get stronger. He's going to get quicker. He's still only 23. I'm hoping sort of for the first 4 or 5 weeks again, he's a little bit quiet to start, and the Melbourne Storm sort of find their partnerships and their combinations. And if he can drop maybe to that 400k or just below, I'm going to jump on board with him. Joe Stimson now. Earlier in the pod special that would have come out before this one, I really like this guy. He's proven himself that he is a starting second rower. He's got plenty to learn, but he's under the right coach in Craig Bellamy. He is in the right team to learn and to sort of be away from the media and just take your time to develop. He's done that in the past couple of seasons from the bench, pushed himself to a starting spot late last season, and I think his workload is just going to get better and better. So a little bit of concern around at the moment around a back injury. Hopefully they can get all cleared up for round 1, but even if it isn't, definitely someone to look at, because if this guy gets the starting spot, he's going to play 60 to 65 minutes a week. He's at 352k. Even if he's average at the position, he's still going to average sort of 48 to 50, maybe even better, and you're going to see probably a 200k price rise. So definitely one to have a look at. From a cheapie point of view, look, over at the Melbourne Storm, you've got guys like Tom Eisenhuth and Tui Kamaka, however you say his name. Those guys are sort of on the borderline, but again, not sort of convinced on their effectiveness with their rotation down in Melbourne. Those edge players, you look at Nelson and that. Nelson, when he came off the bench, at least he had a massive kind of impact, but he's just a pure footballer in a big body. So whether these guys can be the same, I'm tempted just to wait and see how they go. If we see in the first 2 rounds, one of them get on the field and score 50 and then 60, it's a no-brainer to get them in because the price rise is going to be huge. So again, watch out for those guys. Look, West Tigers, let's move on to those guys. Bit of a tough season coming up for the West Tigers. All the rubbish around Ivan Cleary and whether he was going to stay and then go. They've brought Michael Maguire on board now. Look, I'm not a massive Michael Maguire fan. Won the premiership there back with South, I think it was 2012 or 13, somewhere back there. But by all reports, he's just a very, very hard taskmaster. And look, depending on the team, that can be a good thing. Obviously, all these guys are going to need discipline, and in that teamwork frame of mind, you know, you want to be sort of well coached. But it just seems to create conflict in the teams that he does take charge of. But then again, this is the first season, so whether that takes a little bit of time to kick in, as we say, at South, he did win a premiership. So see how we go with these guys. They've recruited a couple of players like your Ryan Madisons and such, but I just think they're a little bit weak across the park, the Tigers, much like the Titans. But again, I don't think they're going to get the wooden spoon. I think they'll be a couple of games ahead of that, but I don't think they'll threaten the top 8. From a guns point of view, look, they don't really have anyone. Again, Robbie Farah Price-wise at 580k, might argue that he's a gun. He's well past his Supercoach prime, but look, when he did go back to the Tigers last season, showed plenty of good form, and that's what's got him the 580k price tag. Is a good late in the season average last year. Saw that he wasn't going to get any time behind Damien Cook at the Bunnies and took the opportunity to go back to his Tigers homeland. So if he can, look, what they do with Josh Reynolds off the bench, whether Benji starts at 5'8" and keeps going, I'm not too sure. Obviously Luke Brooks is fairly solid in there at halfback, and it's just a matter of what they do with Benji and Josh Reynolds. Whether Reynolds comes on for 30 minutes late in the game and it is Robbie Farah who sort of sits out, if that's the case, then you don't really want to look at Robbie, but just wait and see with these guys. SR Masters is probably the other one that you can give an argument to about being a gun. Massive year last year, massive year. Made the mistake myself about halfway through the season of trading him out in draft. Just one of those things. I was a new draft player, didn't really know what I was doing. So, big body, good attacking stats, kicks plenty of goals, so that's always a positive for any centre winger, because you know that sort of gets them an extra 12 or 16 points a game. So I've got no doubt this guy can average in the mid 60 to 70 again, and maybe even increase his price this season. But for now, I'm just not going to get him purely because I can't fit any guns in my centre wings. But as sort of those cheapies blossom and get a little bit more money behind them, can definitely see me trading out a few of those to get him in. Look, one of the things about the West Tigers is actually the second rowers that they've got. Now, they've recruited Ryan Madison, and there's talk around Luke Garner being the starting second rower. Now, Luke Garner's only 265k, so definitely a cheapie to look at if he does get that starting spot. A little bit disappointing for mine, because when I look at the NRL sort of like likely teams for round one, without Team List Tuesday coming out, obviously, there's guys there that I just think deserve to be there. I'm a massive fan of Michael Cheekham, and I reckon last season he had a massive season. He was brilliant whenever he came on. Again, look, we're talking from a Supercoach point of view. I like these guys. Obviously, the coaches are going to see something different, and you got Michael Maguire as a new coach there. So, may just have to play his way into form. But blokes like Matty Eisenhuth and Alex Twal have gone through that Tigers system and been good players and really have sort of done their yards. So, I think they all deserve their spot at starting. But at the end of the day, you know, you've only got a certain amount of spots you can fill. Elijah Taylor's there at the sort of 13, so he's sort of proven himself as that reliable, you know, tackling machine. But I'd really, really like to see Cheekham get a spot. If Michael Cheekham can get that starting role at some time during the season, I reckon he's a bargain at 450k, because his workload and his attacking ability will just see him jump above 600k. But look, that's probably about it for the West Tigers. No real cheapies or anything like that to look at. Again, I think they're going to struggle as a team this season, but couple of Supercoach players there that you can have a look at, with obviously Isam Masters and maybe Michael Cheekham if he forces his way into a starting spot. But that's it for this week, guys. Well, this episode, a little bit of a short one. We'll wrap up the last 4 teams in the next couple of days before Team List Tuesday. Once that comes out, we'll do a team reveal with me and Brent, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. Cheers.